Welcome back to another episode of Let's Face the Facts. I'm your host. My name is David Almeida. I'm an actor in Orlando, Florida, and every week I sit down with an actor or artist friend. We watch an episode of the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life, and then we synopsize and discuss the episode and let it act as a springboard to many, many other sidebar conversations, hopefully about fun things, about nostalgic things, about TV and entertainment from our long-lost youths, and hopefully you find it entertaining. So thank you for tuning in and downloading this episode. My guest this week is Angie Sardiña, returning guest again. Angie is one of the wonderful citizens of Hollywood people that I get to work with on occasion, and I'm really glad that I was able to get her back here because I enjoyed having her here last time, and I think this is a really fun show. Angie and I watched Season 3, Episode 17, The Affair, which had an original air date of February 17th, 1982. It's so weird to say Episode 17. You realize Season 1 only had 13 episodes and Season 2 only had 16. So it's like we are now officially in the longest of all the seasons so far. And that will continue as we go through subsequent seasons of the show. Anyway, I think we're ready to jump on in. Let's face the facts with Angie Sardiña. Ladies and gentlemen, returning after her triumphant analysis of Natalie ruining her reputation.
Well,
a woman with a ruined reputation of her own. Here she is.
True.
Angie Sardiña.
Oh my goodness, thanks for having me again. And you're right, my reputation just definitely... Yeah. You heard of it, huh?
She is what we call a whore.
Oh, that's very nice. Oh.
I don't know where that came from.
It's okay. It came from somewhere, honey. Just tell me the truth already. There it is.
Well, you shared a story. You shared a story last time where a boy...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He tried to grope you and you said, fuck off. And next thing you knew, he was telling everyone you
next
did.
Next thing I knew, I wasn't even in high school. And the high schoolers knew all about me, apparently.
Her phone was ringing off the hook.
Gosh, why is my phone ringing so much?
I'm popular now.
My sister's like, you're a whore. What's going on? Oh, okay. Well, thanks. Thanks, sis.
Well, I do not mean to slut shame you.
Oh, well. Okay.
You are a slut.
Thank you.
Yay.
I appreciate your honesty. I really do. And the snacks as well.
Yes, it was. We did a snacky sort of a dinner. We had chips and hummus and salsa and cheese and crackers and watermelon and Oreos and cheesy bread, leftover cheesy bread.
After this, I'm going to go running, honey.
Yeah, and I am too, but on the toilet.
I think that was super loud, by the way.
He went there.
He did, everybody. He did.
That's why I leaned back.
Hey, man, thanks.
And so, well, welcome back. Last time we were doing this, we were doing it at work on our long. We were working a certain show that had really, really long breaks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me again. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy you're back, and you get to see my house.
Yes, it's gorgeous.
And start. Oh, I love when people love my house.
It's okay.
Well, we just watched Season 3, Episode 17 of The Facts of Life, and it's called The Affair.
Oh, scandalo. Ay,
escándalo.
Escandaloso.
Yes. Yeah, no, escándalo is a scandal.
Yeah,
How do you say affair in Spanish?
I guess
Well, because, I mean, an affair can be an affair to remember. It can be... An affair could be a party. Like, affair is...
here's the thing. I never used affair in Spanish. It was more like... She was puteando. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like, it was never a nice thing to say they're having an affair. Okay. It was like, oh no, she's totally puteando, or like he's puteando. He's a total puto.
Wow. Okay.
So it was just very, that's how we used to talk about things like that.
Sometimes there are direct translations, and sometimes there are not.
I'm sure there's a nicer way to say it. Not us growing up, though.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Not in Spanish.
No.
Yes.
Well, that's nice.
So before we get started, you know the drill, my dear. First thing I demand of my guests.
What is that? I forget.
Is that I need for you to give us a 1 to 2 sentence synopsis of the show.
Oh, jeez.
on the fly, off the top of your head, use your improv skills.
Okay.
Like you might
see. 2 sentences.
Just like you might see in a TV guide, really quick, just to tell us what happened in the episode.
Okay, wait. Big surprise for Natalie and the girls. Will Natalie confront her father? Tune in at 11.
Oh, nice. Very good.
That sounds bad.
And the big surprise is, of course, The Affair, the title of the show.
Oh, I know.
And yeah, this is one of those sitcoms where you're like, I think we forgot the com. We got the sit. We gotta
sit down to watch this one.
we
my
gotta
word.
sitch.
Oh gosh, it was right.
But it was like the second. Were there 3 laughs in the entire second
God,
half of the show?
And then it was like a nervous one. I was like,
yeah. Yes, we commented where.
You commented. Yeah.
Somebody kind of cracked. Natalie and her dad. That's in the lovely scene that we are way ahead of ourselves. But the scene at the end with Natalie and her dad, there are a couple of points where they smartly have them kind of trying to make light of it, trying to ease the tension.
Yeah.
And in the course of it, you hear a couple of audience members like, ha, ha, ha.
No, nobody? Okay.
Nervous laughter like, I thought I'd be laughing more.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. and then they just cut the episode, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really, you want to start?
Yeah.
Tell me.
But yeah, so this was, as far as, the generalities. This is a good episode in that it is a good dramatic episode.
Oh, yeah, it's super dramatic.
Not a lot of laughs. Really nice work from Mindy Cohn.
Yeah,
really
for
good.
Sure,
she's really her dramatic chops. She's really digging in and doing great with this.
Yeah,
and I think we have a little bit of an overly simplistic view of affairs. And
crazy.
relationships and marriages.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it, but in general, it's I think it's a pretty good episode, albeit not very funny.
I kind of dug it though, man. I kind of dug it because, I mean, that's like a big deal.
It's,
the whole. But there were so many different things in this episode because it wasn't only affairs, right? But it was just like a possible, maybe people going through a divorce, like the kids, the product of divorce and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting.
Oh no, there's
a lot to
definitely
deal with.
Serious issues here.
It was a lot, right? Was it
as
just
a show trying to deal with things that affect teenagers, this is absolutely one of them. This is right in line. I do not fault them one bit for tackling this. So we start the episode at this swank Italian restaurant.
Super swank.
Schwank, and it is in New York City.
Yeah.
This is not a place
in Manhattan,
ever seen. Of course.
Isn't that what Blair says? Well, I'm bigger.
Manhattan. Yeah. And they all come in, and Natalie and Tootie in particular are all like,
oh my gosh, I know.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. And here's a nice line. Yeah. It looks just like it did in People Magazine.
Yeah, it was
except
really great.
in color.
Yeah, it was super sweet. Yes.
There was a time that People Magazine the cover was in black and white, and I think some of the pages or some of the ads were in color, but the bulk of People Magazine used to be black and white.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, it's so crazy. Like I just thought it was so sweet how they're just always so innocent, those two, right?
Oh, Tootie, they have their arms around each other.
I know.
They're really clinging to each other in this, and it's lovely to see that tight a friendship. Really.
Yeah.
You know why they probably had them clinging together so much at the beginning is because by the time we get to the halfway point of the episode, Tootie is irrelevant. Tootie cannot contribute to this.
Oh, I know.
So Tootie kind of has to bow out simply because due to characters and the histories that they've written, she no longer really has any stake or anything to say here.
Yeah.
So she goes. So I think it works what they did.
Yeah.
They did what they had to do, and I think it worked fine. Because Tootie I think she literally does not appear in the second half of the show, does she?
Oh, at the beginning.
We just checked. Tootie does quickly pop in before Dr. Green shows up.
God, that's so weird.
And okay, so we begin in this restaurant, and Mrs. Garrett is really going. She's like a crazy fangirl here.
I was gonna say that's exactly. I kind of wrote that she's kind of like a schoolgirl. It's kind of funny and cute.
And Mrs. Garrett is fixated on. And so this is where Walter Cronkite eats lunch.
Yeah, and then it's so funny because they're like, "Oh, that's his wife over there," and she's like, "Oh,
yeah.
Like it's so
Bitch.
funny. Yeah, it's so funny."
But she's after Walter Cronkite because then he was still, I believe, This is beginning of 82, I believe. He was still doing the CBS Evening News. It was right at the very end.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
It was right. I think they were about to pass the torch.
Yeah.
But you think of the sort of main Cronkite years were the 60s and 70s.
Well, of course, but it's funny that she's his fangirl, right? Of course, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, it's funny.
And Blair is just playing up the fact that, well, yes, this place is gorgeous and you love it. It's so chic and exclusive, and I'm the one that got you here. And, oh, I know people. Hello, and waving.
I know,
and
it's just so funny. It's ridiculous.
And then a guy passes in sunglasses, and Natalie and Tootie are like, oh, my God. And they go, did you see that? Yes. Who was that? I don't know, but I'm sure he's somebody.
Yeah,
wow.
it's so sweet. Yeah, because they say, Natalie says, there's some neat looking guys in here. It's so sweet, right?
Yes. So they get seated at their table, and they do the sitcom trope, the stage trope, where the five of them are clustered on one side of the table so that there's nobody's back to the camera.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, right?
And you're like, oh, dear. Well, I guess there's no real way around it. But anyhow, so they're sitting around the table. Jo tries to put her napkin in her shirt, and Blair quickly
tears it out of her shirt.
puts the kibosh on that.
That's so funny.
And so as they're continuing to look around, and Blair is saying, oh, this is the place where... this is where the rich people are. This is where the Hollywood, the showbiz people are.
And this is where the TISP, is that what she said? What does she call the room?
The
TISP.
It's trysts.
Trysts. That's
that's where the trysts happen, which is interesting because that is where we do eventually meet Natalie's dad. But the other thing is that talking about how all the famous people here and the famous people who this restaurant is famous and known for the famous people going there. And Blair says, oh, this restaurant has been attended by everybody. Dick and Liz, Eddie and Liz, everybody and Liz.
That's funny, I know. That's a good one.
It's like, it's 82. Okay, Eddie, Dick and Liz, Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor. Okay, that's still somewhat in our consciousness, maybe, but Richard Burton's been dead a while now. And Eddie Fisher, the Liz Taylor, funny. Eddie Fisher thing happened in the 50s. That was like 30 years ago.
That's so funny, though, that's what she talks about,
But that's hilarious. What the middle-aged vaudevillian writers remember, as I've said before. So we have to point out some very, very important hair and makeup shit here.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, I've talked about the makeup and having problems with the makeup on this show. This is a bad makeup episode.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of lip gloss on the girls, particularly Natalie. We've got that orangey toned blush that looks like it's the same color on all of them.
Yeah.
And darker purpley eyeshadow.
What season was this?
This is season 3. 2 and 3. 2 is when it started to go bad. And it's only in certain episodes it gets weird. And go ahead.
You think it might have been lighting or something?
I think it's just a bad makeup artist who just thought, oh, well, I mean, I get the idea that it's, they're teenagers and they probably wouldn't be wearing much makeup. But the fact that they have on this...
They had a lot of foundation, that's for sure.
Yeah, the colors don't look right. And like I've said, it looks like the same orangey blush is on Jo, who should not have any blush on her face.
Yeah, that's true.
Is also the blush that's on Natalie's face. Yeah. And we have to talk about Blair's hair. Last week...
It was like crazy big, right?
It was... Well, here's the thing. Last week, we had the episode where they're all around the sink in the opening credits. That's that quick clip you see of them all around the sink getting ready. Blair pulls some rollers out of her hair. And then as the episode progresses, you realize they forgot to brush her hair out. You could still see the lines from the rollers. You could still see the roots and where it looked like she had taken the rollers out of her hair and not brushed it. Well... We start this episode with that same hairdo where it's like they forgot to brush out her hair after setting it.
That's funny.
And then, as the scene progresses, it is brushed out in certain shots.
Yeah, it is brushed out in certain shots.
And then it comes back to being not brushed out, meaning they edited together. There's a rehearsal taping they would do earlier in the day, then there'd be rewrites, and then they would do the quote-unquote air taping at night.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
But the idea is the rehearsal taping is their cushion if they ever need to do any editing or whatever. So they have 2 performances to put together, and clearly this was from 2 different performances. But it was just shocking because particularly before it's brushed out, it's not just big.
Yeah.
it's unsightly. You can really see the dark
I know,
roots.
It's crazy. I was like,
really
wow, this is ginormous.
Yeah, it was unflattering.
Well, it's also like, God, it ages her so much.
Yes.
Right? I was like,
yes. So, yes, we do have a little quick interchange here where Blair talks about a boy she's dating, and then she quickly catches the eye of a different boy with a beard.
Oh, gosh, what does she say? He has courtroom eyes.
Yeah, she has courtroom eyes. He's got to be a law student at Princeton. She's like, I can tell. She could just tell.
That's so funny.
And all that.
Well, and now this after she had said she loves somebody, right? Is that
yeah,
right?
she talked about somebody as the love of her life, some other boy.
Yeah.
And then now there's this. So she does the thing of dropping her napkin and catching his eye. And then...
And they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she looks over back and they're like, well, what's that about? And she's like, oh, any second he's going to come over and he's going to look at me and say, excuse me, haven't we met somewhere?
Yeah.
And he walks over to the table. She's like, oh, here he comes. Here it is. And he walks to Mrs. Garrett.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that a funny
and says, excuse me, haven't we met somewhere? And Mrs. Garrett is all, and then she says, really I don't know. She says, who are you?
Yeah.
And he says, I'm Alan Cook. He goes, my sister goes to Eastland Academy.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Garrett's like, oh, I'm the dietitian. Of course, you would have seen me. And she says, so you must be Sandra Cook's brother. And he's like, yes. And Blair is like, oh, Sandy and I are dear, dear friends. Blair Warner. And he's like, oh, well, I'm going to be visiting her next weekend. Maybe I'll look you up. Oh, that would be lovely. So little flirtation, a possible tryst being set up.
I know. And it's funny because what does Natalie say? She says something like, wow. She's telling Blair to be able to look at a guy and say, I want you. Like,
yeah. Yeah, Natalie was talking about...
right?
Yeah, but Natalie said she admired Blair's ability to just be so forward with men.
Yeah, it was just so sweet and innocent.
But that's going to come back and we're going to flip those...
Oh, we sure
We're going to flip those coins and turn them tables in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So she goes away to the bathroom, Natalie? Is that right?
Yeah. It's Jimmy is the boy that Blair refers to as the love of her life.
Oh, that's right,
And then she says, bye, Jimmy. Hello, Alan.
No, my word.
Yes.
Oh, isn't that Tootie that says that?
Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah,
you're
Tootie
right.
says that, right?
Like, well, there she goes again,
yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So then Natalie says, I think that woman over there is Rachel from Another World. And Another World is an NBC soap opera, so you know they wanted to say 3 o'clock weekdays.
I know, that's see, I threw it in the title too, 11 p.m. Tune in.
Exactly, that's what it is. So Natalie says, I'm going to go and get her autograph. And Natalie's like, I left my autograph book at home. Maybe she'll autograph my napkin. It's a cloth napkin.
Oh, that's what she went to do. Okay.
So she goes after, and Mrs. Garrett's like, Natalie, you're not going to chase her into the bathroom.
Oh, that's right.
And she's like, sure, why not? And Mrs. Garrett's like, but take my napkin too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I know. It's funny.
So Mrs. Garrett. And again, Mrs. Garrett, not a lot to do in this episode.
Yeah, it's just funny that they have her there in that restaurant, right? It's funny.
Yeah. I mean, she does have some wisdom in the
she
early
totally
part
does.
of the next act.
She totally does. So they're away, and then what is it that draws their attention to the back room?
Well, it's just while Natalie is gone, they happen to see this man.
But some guy just walks in and then they notice.
And they're like, wait a minute, isn't that Dr. Green? That's Natalie's father.
But that's not Natalie's mother. Who says that?
Blair. I think it's got to be Blair.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she says it.
And so Mrs. Garrett even says, Blair, don't insinuate.
That's so funny.
And he goes over and sits down with her. Oof. Now, I have to say.
Sits down. They're sucking face, bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
The actor playing Natalie's dad, I thought he appeared on more episodes of The Facts of Life. This is the only time he is Natalie's dad on this show.
Well, you know what happens then, huh?
I know, really.
Then we know how that turned out, right?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
But it is played by actor Norman Burton.
Okay.
And gentlemen of a certain age and sexual orientation like myself.
No kidding.
All know that Norman Burton is most famous and most well known for playing Joe Atkinson on Wonder Woman seasons 2 and 3.
Really?
And interestingly, it was 2 seasons of Wonder Woman, but it was only 9 episodes, according to IMDb. I thought he was on more of them.
Wow. Only 9.
But he has a long, he's got a mile long. He died in 2003. But he's got a mile-long list of credits on IMDb. He's one of those working character actors.
him.
He was in 2 of the Planet of the Apes movies.
No way.
In 2 different roles.
Okay.
He was in Diamonds Are Forever, which is a
nice.
James Bond movie, and a ton of TV appearances. So he was always working character actor, and lovely. I really, particularly how he handles the tenderness of the later scene.
Yeah.
It's one of those like, oh, he's got it going on. This is a solid character actor.
Well, you can see a lot of these people did theater as well. Come on.
Yeah. So no sooner does Mrs. Garrett say, don't insinuate anything about his presence there with this other woman, they start getting all lovey-dovey and kissy face.
I know.
At which point they're like, fuck. And it happens when Tootie's like, I'm going to go over and say hi to him, because Tootie knows him. Again, Tootie and Natalie, friends.
That's
They've
right,
probably
that's
hung out
right.
at each other's houses.
Yeah.
I'm going to go say hi to him. I'm going to not go say hi
Yeah,
to him.
that's right. I forgot that happened.
So then Natalie comes back, and we get this very theatrical,
Yeah, it's
somewhat
funny.
vaudevillian, we're going to form a human wall.
Yeah, they're trying to do
So she
everything.
doesn't see. We're going to hold up
Everything.
the wine list and the menu. And every time she's like, guys, what are you doing? Guys,
Right.
this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then Natalie sees it.
And it's a really nice moment because you're like, she's super bubbly like she always
Yeah,
is. And
she's
then
happy.
She has a great moment. She's really great.
She's really good in this
She
episode.
really is. She just suddenly was like, she just
Yeah.
stopped and it was great.
And Dad is playing tonsil hockey with
Yeah,
this
he
woman.
sure is. Dang. Right? Can you
mean-
imagine? You look up, you're like, like how do you, and you said like what, sophomore in high school? That's a nice punch to the gut.
Yeah, as a sophomore in high school, hell yeah. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. I do want to point out, why would you be sucking face with your mistress in a posh upscale restaurant in Manhattan where apparently the creme de la creme of people who know people go?
Yeah.
It's like, this is where, no, you will go to a little tiny hole in the wall
Yeah,
down in the
booth
village.
in the back, right? Booth. Oh,
The booth in the back down
that
in...
sounds fun.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I want to go to the village. and
I
booth in
know.
the
I'm
back.
like, you and I both just,
my
our
God,
eyes
like-
just, it was like,
yeah, we're like,
we want to
ooh,
fucking do that
You know
right
what?
now.
We should do that. We should do that sometime. We're gonna go to
Let's-
New York and we're gonna find
go-
a little booth in the
and
back
do-
in Village,
And
we'll do a podcast.
A remote recording.
I love it.
We're
Hey.
in Greenwich Village right now.
Greenwich Village. That's hilarious.
But so yeah, one does have to question the whole that directorially.
Well, hold on. It's also funny
Sucking
because
face.
you could see them clearly, right?
Yeah.
The little archway where they walk them in. We're gonna sit you in the far
Yeah.
forward table where everyone can see you.
Yeah, if there were a stage in this restaurant, we would have put you in the center of it.
So
It's like-
really funny.
yeah.
It's really funny.
And so for that reason, it's like, directorially, we maybe could have had holding hands.
Sure,
We could
right.
have had a kiss on the hand.
Yeah.
A kiss on the hand and then a peck on the cheek.
Yeah.
And maybe even
Yeah.
she could have been like, no, don't.
Yeah, and
honey,
maybe-
control yourself, you horny old
But-
fuck. They could have directorially made it at least look like he was trying to be somewhat on the DL with this, you know?
It's crazy. I mean, it is like, whoa, so right. Can you imagine how she felt? She didn't even see him just holding hands with
know.
somebody.
She
saw
was-
him sucking face.
That's
I mean, that is a hardcore.
That's pretty bad.
Oh, man. But
yes.
anyway, so
Natalie runs out of the restaurant. The
Yep.
girls have to go after her. And then we end up back at the cafeteria.
yeah.
Blair does say something that I was very happy to hear. She says, affairs are not all bad things. She says, sometimes an affair can hold a marriage together.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Dan Savage. And I listen to the Savage Lovecast religiously. The way Dan Savage talks about it is he says, talking about people who are bad at monogamy. And he says, if someone has been married for 50 or 60 years and they maybe cheated once or twice, but it didn't break up the marriage, it didn't break up the family, everything, it goes, I'm not sure that it's right to say that person's bad at monogamy. Dan Savage is like, I think that person's good at monogamy.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
He says, if you are told you have to stand in a room on one leg for the rest of your life, and a couple of times your other toe taps the floor, is how we put it.
But what I really liked is that Joe was like, what?
Yeah. What an interesting
that was such a nice surprise, right? Where she was like, no. She's like, marriage is sacred. Yeah. There are vows, right?
There
or something like
vows,
that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so great that she was the one to say that.
Putting Joe and Blair in counterpoint again, but you're like, yeah, I believe, particularly, from an Italian family that would have a lot of religious stuff going on. And I couldn't agree more. That was totally in line with the character and interestingly complex because Joe sort of has a who gives a fuck attitude about stuff. Joe tends to be,
but not with that. That's the thing. It was nice to see that choice.
Joe is such a stop making a big deal out of shit person. Yet this is one thing where Joe was like, no,
it's not okay.
I have a point of view, and I believe strongly.
I really liked that. That was nice.
I do too.
Yeah, it was a nice choice. And all three girls, they were so great.
They are good. Yes,
I really loved the dynamic in this scene. I was like, wow, this is really nicely done.
And to continue to explore this, then Tootie is like, do you think her dad's had other affairs?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think my dad could have had an affair?
When he goes on a business trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, growing up as a woman, when...
Are you a woman?
I am.
Okay,
I identify as a woman.
Okay, very good. Cisgender.
You can say that. It's not on the poster.
I know that, but what do I call you?
What do you call me? A slut. You call me a slut. Yeah. Okay. So, and my dad and I was the youngest in the family, so I was like, the youngest in the family, daddy's little girl. Mm-hmm. And when you start questioning, it's an interesting thing to see it on TV because at one point I guess everybody, right? You start changing your point of view of your parents. It's really a beautiful. That's another thing that they show, which is really great because I remember that as a kid where I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not crazy about how that was dealt with. You know what I mean? So
the bigger, grander, overarching thing that we don't get into explicitly in this episode, but it's that beautiful, terrible, important rite of passage where we all have to inevitably discover our parents' humanity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a really interesting shift, right?
And it can be devastating.
Oh, yeah.
At times.
Yeah. Absolutely. But that whole thing where it's like, oh, yeah, dude, it's that hearing the girls talk about divorce, right? And then everybody, how they feel about it and how they're saying certain things carefully as well, because she's so innocent. Yeah. And that's like a nice thing to see between Blair and Joe as well because they don't usually pair, right?
No.
Like, so to be on the same team suddenly when they see that she's really affected by this, and just to be like, Blair was talking about, the first time my mother got divorced, we went to, where was it she first said?
Yeah, we went on a trip.
The second one was Palm Springs, and the third time they just went shopping.
They went shopping, and when my stepfather got the bill, and
he was laughing. He was he was crying after. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, well, the first time I cried, and then we went on a trip.
Yeah,
and the time
I cried for a week. The second trip, my mom cried for a week. The third time we went shopping, when my stepdad got the bill, he cried for a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe the whole time's giving the stink eye, like she doesn't think it's funny.
She doesn't like that Blair is. Yeah, she doesn't like that Blair is making light of.
Yeah.
The fact that divorce and marriage is breaking up, and then when Natalie and Mrs. Garrett do come in, Mrs. Garrett. First of all, they're like, Natalie, do you want to talk? Natalie's like, nope.
Oh yeah, she sure
nope.
did.
Don't want it. Not doesn't. She's in denial. She's not dealing with it.
Sweet girl.
Then Mrs. Garrett says, "Oh, Alan called. He said he will be here next weekend." And
to Blair,
Natalie loses her shit.
Oh man, I was like, my god.
This is the oversimplified sitcom psychology.
It was crazy. I was like,
when you hold something in and then it explodes in another way.
Yeah, dude, especially with a nice girl like Natalie, right? Well, she held that in really well.
Yeah. And then she turns to Blair and says, right after you're talking about Jimmy being the love of your life, and she says, Blair, you're cheap and you're sleazy and you're disgusting, and I wonder how many marriages you're going to break up.
I know, it's crazy.
And it's like, whoa.
Oh, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And she starts crying during it. Oh, and it's like, good, get up the waterworks, girl.
And then Blair just stays quiet because Miss Garrett's like, she just kind of they give each other that look, oh man, it's so sad.
Yeah. And then Mrs. Garrett is like, okay, you need to take a fucking chill pill.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Mrs. Garrett basically says, you need to talk about your dad.
Yeah,
you need to talk about it with him. And she says, call him. And she's like, I can't do that over the phone. She says, invite him up. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And it's like, you'll figure it out. So Mrs. Garrett, beautifully supportive, And we end the act with her hugging Natalie and Natalie crying, and you're just like, oh.
And I mean, because sometimes you can't keep certain things in, you know, they'll eat away at you. And I think that right away, you know, I also like that they show that too, right? Like, it's okay to talk about it. And if you need to get that off your chest, go ahead and do that. Because a lot of times you'll say, don't say anything, just deal with it. So it's nice to see. But that was back in the day, right?
And,
right?
And parents and stuff. And
it's so important to say, talk about it.
It's important to talk about it, but there is another Dan Savageism is your love life when it comes to your parents should be on a need-to-know basis.
I agree, dude.
Meaning, your parents don't need to know your kinks and any of the stuff you do behind closed doors. That doesn't affect them. They don't need to know that.
Of course.
Your parents have a right to not know about your sex life and about your love life. And I think that's a two-way street. In particular, the shitty thing here is that Natalie had the right to not have to be involved in the more complex dimensions of her parents' marriage. Yeah. And now, unfortunately, due to his being a stupid idiot, she's thrust in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the writing treats it in a slightly oversimplified manner.
Okay.
It can be justified by saying, well, because she's a teenager, because of that, it needs to be. That is what her point of view would probably be.
Yeah.
I still think I think that's giving the writers a little more credit than probably they deserve. They probably did do. Because so much of, there's such a TV trope that, an affair, this is over, this is done. This is a completely, relationship ending thing, as opposed to, okay, an affair happened. Let's figure out why that affair happened.
Yeah.
What are you not getting that you looked elsewhere for something? And so often it's not about the sex.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And other times, if it is about the sex, then it's not about the love. Then it's not about the, people in non-monogamous relationships can have sex with other people, but it's like, but no, I come home to you. I save my love for you. I'm sharing my life and my mortgage and raising our children with you. Non-monogamy is a thing that Dan Savage is a big advocate for. So just to bring that up is, who's to say this really?
But this was clearly right. He was cheating.
This was a cheating thing, but the idea that if it was, well, your mother and I have an arrangement where I get my needs met in certain ways
but then again, would she want to hear that? Come on, dude.
That's the need to know thing, and that's one of those like, well, shit. And that's, as an advice column, this Dan Savage, sometimes it is things where it's like, my parents found the box under my bed.
Oh, right.
So now they know what I'm into, kind of a thing.
Oh, my God. I would die, by the way. I would die. Nobody needs to know, like, I'm not going to fucking talk to my parents about anything that's happened between them. Like, did I deal with them in their crazy ways while I lived in the house with them? Of course, right? Mm-hmm. Sure. But it's, I'm not about to talk to them about.
No, and
come on, get at it. It's none of my business. I'm a fucking adult now too, so forget about it.
Yeah, a friend of mine once he grew up to become I think it was a LMHC, licensed mental health counselor. At which point his parents started telling him everything about them going to swingers clubs.
Oh my God.
Kinds of crazy stuff, and actively, this is stuff we've done. Like, they still actively were into the swinging community.
No way.
And we're like, why do you let them tell you this? And he thankfully was just like, whatever.
It's probably like Barbara Streisand, I guess, in Meet the Fockers, right? Like Barbara Streisand, right? You're like, oh my gosh, how funny is that? Like a sex counselor, stuff like that. But anyway, I think it's kind of, I love how. Oh, well, we got to get to the scene where she approaches her dad. Because oh, God, when I saw that, I was like, oh, no. Like, the anxiety that was hitting when I was seeing this. Oh, my God, because, again, like, there were moments with my dad that I would get into it with him because I started seeing him in this different way. And it was, like, no longer, like, oh, yeah, like how she tells him, how could you do this? You're my hero. You
were my hero,
You were, that's right. Yeah. You were my hero. Okay. And he was like, okay.
We're talking to her. All right. So we come back from commercial, and it's just Joe and Natalie and Blair sitting in the cafeteria, and we know that Natalie has called for her father. This is the next day, by the way.
Oh, she's kind of bugging them, or she's annoying them. Oh, what time is it?
What time was he going to be here? That sort of a thing. But yeah, the incident happened the day before. So that scene where Natalie yelled at Blair before the commercial, and now this is the same day, which is the day after she saw him in the restaurant. So in this scene, this is a scene we were saying how much we love this scene, where genuinely you want the support of the girls, where it becomes Natalie saying, "What's it like?" Asking them. And Joe and Blair are now suddenly on the same team, and they're comforting their friend. Aww. And, Joe is like, you kind of get used to it. It's, things change. Blair does try to be a little bit glib about it, about you get to go shopping more, your parents spoil you, and all that. So it doesn't really work. And then Joe even says, well, you no longer worry about the worst. You don't have to worry about the worst thing happening because it already has.
Oh, that's right. And then she kind of starts. Then you have an insight into how she grew up with the fighting in the house. I thought that was a really lovely way to expose her a little bit.
Yeah, and we know that that's part of her history. That's absolutely already in there. We've already established these strong characters with a strong point of view and a strong backstory that informs that point of view. And Blair and Joe are children of divorce.
I know.
And that's why, as I said earlier, Tootie's kind of she's out of this league now. So the two of them comforting Natalie in this time is beautiful.
What I love that Joe says is she says, hey, we're okay. We survived.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're both so totally different. Right?
Yeah. True.
So if that were to happen, Natalie, right? Nat, it's going to be okay, Nat, right?
Yes.
That's so sweet. Joe is so sweet with her like that. And so's Blair.
So then Mrs. Garrett and Tootie do come in. And Natalie is getting sort of stealing her girders here to confront her dad. And then Natalie starts getting mad and saying, well, if he loved my mother, he wouldn't do this to her. And she's not going to let him get away with it when she finds out. And she's going to find out because I'm going to tell her. And Mrs. Garrett is like, whoa, girl, slow your roll.
No, because there's never been divorce in her family. That's why.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's never been a divorce in my family. And it's like, well, whatever, honey. So Mrs. Garrett does comfort her a little bit. But then he shows up.
Well, and before that, actually, she says, well, sometimes you can come back from it. You can repair it or something like that, right? And because Tootie's like, all you need is love. And and Miss Garrett says, sometimes you can come back from it. But, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I don't know,
Yeah. And this was, the 80s was probably the tail end of the wives looking the other way. The wives know, but they pretend they don't know. That was such a common thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pre-women's lib, obviously. Mm-hmm. So then Dr. Green shows up. I have to say, something I always thought would have been such a cool thing to do. Remember on Friends?
Yeah.
Rachel, her last name is Green.
Yeah.
It's Green without an E at the end.
Yeah.
Natalie's last name is Green with an E on the end.
Oh, no kidding.
I still thought, you know what they should have done? Rachel's dad was a doctor. They always referred to him as Dr. Green. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's like Natalie's dad, Dr. Green.
Yeah.
They should have made them brothers, and they should have made...
Oh, that would have been cool.
They should have had Mindy Cohn come on to Friends as Rachel's cousin, Natalie.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And you could have married the Facts of Life cinematic universe with Friends, and David would be the happiest human being in the history of life.
But wasn't that NBC as well?
It was. It was.
That would have been a good thing to do.
That would have been a really cute little tie-in.
Look at you. You should be writing sitcoms, bro.
I thought this
or
at the time.
Or tying them in. That's a good idea.
They didn't call me.
Well, they're silly.
Yeah. I don't know why. So then they go into the lounge, into the parlor for their private conversation.
Oh, man. I was like sweating on this one.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Oh, totally.
I guess I've seen it before, so I don't remember how, but...
It's because I've had to approach my my parents in that way before, and it's kind of crazy. Like because you get nervous because you're looking at them differently, you're talking to them differently. There's a shift, and so you're like kind of like your world kind of crumbles down. Where you're like, oh my god, is this how they've been the whole time? Because like you said, it's discovering their humanity, who they are, not without kids, but I'm saying like who they really are starts showing you like. Because they kind of let their guard down a little bit when you're starting to get older.
Yeah,
right.
And it's that rite of passage that my parents are human is also and I'm becoming an adult. I'm becoming their peer.
It's going like whoop. It's balancing out. I mean, it's not totally balanced out, but it's starting to shift a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the seesaw.
And you cannot see far enough down the road for the point when your parents become your children. But that's the next inevitability, rite of passage. Been there, done that, got all the T-shirts.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry to hear that.
And
Oof.
But
yeah, her seeing her dad differently is really beautiful.
Yes,
it's really beautiful, and she can't even and the blocking, she kept moving and she kept moving and she kept moving, you know, which is...
And he stayed seated. Yeah. That's the thing. And he does have a little bit of a sense of humor. The subtleties of his character were very nicely peppered in there. She says, "Where were you yesterday?" And he says, "I was in surgery most of the day." And he goes, "Mrs. Simpson doesn't have that pesky gallbladder anymore." And then she says, "Oh, really? You were in surgery, but I thought you were enjoying the Parmesan cheese." And he says, "Parmesan cheese?" He goes, "No surgeon worth his salt would use that anymore."
Yeah.
That maybe in the old days kind of a joke.
But then, you know, I love it. She's got him.
But then she just she's like, "Who were you? I saw you." Who? He goes, "Oh, that was just a friend, a colleague." And she breaks down. Beautiful performance. Says, "Don't lie to me, Dad. Please be honest with me." And in a weird little dialogue thing, he says, "What do you want me to say?" That's a little bit odd.
I know.
I would have preferred the line to go, "I don't know what to say."
Yeah. What do you want me to say?
And then she says, "I want to hear what's going on." And that's where I feel like, it's still technically not your goddamn business what's going on with your parents and your marriage.
Right, but at that point, you don't know that, right? You're having that shift, you know, like, I get why she says that.
Well, because the underlying thing is, are you and Mom getting a divorce?
No, but I get why she says that but even then it's like, it's so weird, right? Like, we're all in each other's business when we start growing up, right? We're starting to grow up, we're figuring each other out. There's all these individuals in one place. But when you start shifting into the adult mentality, it's like she's like, "I want to know, right? Like, tell me what's going on." You're still thinking it's the business, but at the end of the day, he could have very well been like, "It's none of your business," right?
Yeah,
he could have very well said it, but still, she still wants to know because she's not that she'd want to hear it, though, right?
Right, because it's at the core of it is about the divorce, and you know, she says, "What about Mom?" He says, "This has nothing to do with your mother." And she says, "Don't you love her anymore?" And he says, "Of course I love your mother. We're going to celebrate our silver anniversary next year."
But won't it be tarnished?
And she says, "Won't it be tarnished?"
I love that. That's
and that was one of the jokes.
Yeah.
Where the audience kind of went,
Yeah.
You're just sort of uncomfortable.
Okay.
Like, that was kind of a joke, or at least it was clever. I don't.
I don't know what to do here. I'm so uncomfortable.
Then he comes back with, you get why he says this, but it's so like, this is not the way to explain yourself. Sometimes things happen in a marriage. As you age, you need different things. You start to feel like you've missed out on things.
I know, that's messed up to tell your kid, right?
And
thanks,
Natalie,
Dad. So you regret me or what, bro? Like, but I know, but see,
I get it, because it's one of those, well, you know now, you can't unknow, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. So the best
and I've tried.
But she lashes back. "You mean a midlife crisis?" And that's baloney, Dad. You know it. The same way that kids who do drugs are just objects of peer pressure or something.
Yeah, that was a good line, because he's like,
You know it's all just baloney. And then she says, "I adored you." And he says, "Don't say that in the past tense. That scares me." And she says, "You were my hero."
Oh, I know. And he says, "I'm not a hero. I'm just a person."
Yeah, which is perfect. That's the parent not being the god and all that.
But it's hard, you know, once a certain bond is broken, it's hard to repair it.
But then she's like, "How many other times and how many other women?"
God, you don't want to hear that.
And
I know,
says,
and you're like,
it's like, "Girl, do not ask questions you don't want to know.
It's the first time, okay.
And
anyway.
he says the first time, and she's like, "The first time you cheated or the first time you got caught?"
I know, she's super sassy and up front, right?
Yeah.
In this episode.
And then our resolution, which is back in the oversimplistic category, is he says, "I'll end it." And she says, "Huh?" And he says, "I will end it." He says, "Because I don't ever want to have to see the look that is on your face ever again," which is beautiful because it focuses on his love for her. You know, there is still the problem of I'll end it and I'll stay in a miserable marriage with your mother where I'm not getting my needs met because I love you. Hope you're fucking happy. And I'm sorry, I do have to think, you know. But I also would have rolled my eyes. He was like, I'll get counseling with your mother. It's like, I would have been like, oh, you know, I don't know what I wanted, but there's a little part of me. It's just like, it's that, and I've not really, I've been in a relationship where I was cheated on. And I have never cheated. I've never really had the opportunity. I mean, good. So the thing is, knowing just as an adult, having lived and been in relationships, understanding how complex, how many ins and outs and things are that you can't possibly expect a 15-year-old to wrap her brain around.
And it is very complicated if you're not... You realize that, and hopefully you do realize that and you learn from mistakes, but that doesn't always happen, you know? But I guess some people can say, okay, well, I'll stay in this marriage forever and ever and ever. And I personally couldn't do that.
And Dan Savage says, why is it that you marry somebody and you don't win at the relationship game until one of the people dies?
I know.
He's like, why do we do that to ourselves?
Yeah.
And... The thing was, I think this goes way back to the 80s, that Dr. Ruth Westheimer was the one that said, there's not one person out there for everybody. There is a whole array of ones.
Yeah, it's just the beautiful thought of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And I think when you do find one of them, that feeling of those love feelings, you do get the sense that this is it. This is the one.
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, you need to be open enough and strong enough and communicative enough to acknowledge, just because I am with you and we are in a monogamous relationship, that doesn't mean neither of us is ever going to be attracted to another person again.
Oh, well, how is it that...
But the ending, we haven't...
What does he say? Yeah, you haven't done the end yet.
We still have to address the odd ending. Very odd.
I was like,
did they run out of videotape?
Yeah, that's exactly what I felt like.
Okay. You almost wonder if there wasn't more. And in editing, they said, no, let's end it here.
You know what? Let's end it here.
I think it makes a stronger statement to end it here. This is my vision.
Yeah, because it was really weird.
But so what we're talking about is, as soon as he has said to her, I don't want to ever see that look on your face again.
Oh, yeah.
And that line is one of those where it certainly is a good, convincing line for us, I think.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
The focus is back on Natalie and him saying, I hate that this is unraveling our relationship. And that's a nice thing. And
then,
you
had to own up to it, right?
Yeah, and she's crying. She's got the waterworks going. She's doing great.
Yeah, she is.
And then he stands up and they're looking at each other and he says, I'd really like to give you a hug right now, but I don't want to rush you. And then it cuts back to her and she looks at him and she cries. And then it freeze frames.
Yeah, but it was so weird because it almost looked like she was going to walk towards it and then maybe back up. So it was like cut before any action happened right now. And it was like kind of like a sneeze that you're like, oh, come on. And he just, that's it. That's it. That's all it was. It was weird.
I wonder if the script originally had her hugging him.
I don't know. I kind of pictured her stepping away from him, but still having that moment, and then him saying, "But I don't want to." I don't know, something.
Well, how would you have continued if she didn't hug him? How would you have continued that scene? How else would you have gotten out of this episode? What would we have done? Writing-wise?
I think what would have made organically. I think for me as an actress, I think if he would have said that, I really want to hug you back, that I would have pulled away. Yeah. But I don't want to rush you. And then there's that ending. It was weird. I really like to hug you, but I don't want to rush you. At that point, it was just a weird muddled.
Yeah, but I don't want to rush you.
Yeah, it was just weird. She didn't do anything to. I don't know. It was weird.
And maybe the other thing is, maybe the better way to have done it would be have him say, "I'd really like to hug you now," and have there be a pregnant pause there.
Yeah. It was just weird. There was no pause.
He realizes, oh, she doesn't want me to hug her.
Yeah.
And then have him say, okay.
Right.
I don't want to rush you. And then maybe even if it was, well, I love you.
Well, that's what I mean.
And we'll talk some more.
That's what I mean. There was no moment.
Yeah.
Before he said what he said. So it was kind of rushed or something. It was weird. It was like,
And yet, if they had hugged at the end, I would have been like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. It would have been such a pat.
Yeah.
Beyond, I mean...
No, because that wouldn't have happened. Come on, I'm glad they did.
The oversimplification, that would have been well, okay, you said you're going to stop seeing her, so everything is okay
and the reality is no.
Yeah. I get why the hug would have been... Ugh, I would have probably really been unhappy with the hug.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's some finessing in the script, and I don't know what... but something different needed to happen. And, writers, get in your time machine and please fix that for me.
Yeah, it was just weird. It was like an abrupt freeze frame. It was weird. It's like,
and it wasn't
weird.
And I don't feel like it was abrupt in the sense that it just suddenly was like, boom, it was over.
No,
there was this pregnant moment of her just staring at him and crying.
And then it froze.
And then it froze.
It was weird. It was like, yeah, it's almost like, no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. You're right. It wasn't abrupt. It was just like you said, it's like almost they ran out of tape.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll give them that. They ran out of tape.
They ran out of tape.
That's what it looked like.
It ain't cheap, you know.
Yeah. Well, it was good, man. It was a great episode. I loved it. I love that journey with Nat. I love Natalie.
It was great in what I will give it props for. In spite of on the negative side, we have the oversimplification of relationships, marriages, and understanding your parents being
human beings.
Your parents being involved in such a thing that a teenager can't understand. And therefore, there is a part of me that wants to say, and so a teenager does not have the right to turn and confront their dad regarding something that's private like that, even though he was a fucking idiot and made it public.
Yeah, what a dumbass.
But on the good side, we have the character work of Joe and Blair as children of divorce. We have them technically bonding. That's
really
the thing that
great. That was
subliminally was bonding Joe and Blair
absolutely.
more.
Yeah, for sure.
The theme
that's what I said,
the theme of not just learning that your parents are human, but the even bigger theme of I'm not a kid anymore. I can't just bury my head in the sand and expect that everything is always going to be perfect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And my parents will always be there, and that their marriage or anything is permanent. That's really, it's dealing with the issue of divorce or at least marital problems. That's a big thing, and that was a big thing going on at the time.
Was a big deal, man.
Very timely, absolutely appropriate for this as subject matter for the show.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
The girls were great, as always.
Yeah, and you know what else I think was really great? You, Angie Sardiña.
What, me?
Yes, you were fabulous.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm so glad you were here.
I really
able
appreciate
to
you.
Do this. And
thanks for having me, and thanks for all the snacky snacks.
You're so welcome.
And thanks for letting me write on this notepad that says David Almeida in it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Look at that.
My notepads.
Thanks, David.
I used to work for a printing company, so I have notepads with my name on them.
I thought you named him David. That's what I thought.
I hand decorated each sheet. Yes,
I love that. It's fantastic. The affair.
Yes, you have it right there. Yes. So I said it before, and we made good on it. I said, do come back. I hope you do it again. You did it again.
Do.
I hope you are able to come back yet again.
Absolutely. Third time's a charm, honey.
Yes.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, and bye.
Bye.
And there you have it. That was Angie Sardiña. Back for more. I'm really glad she was able to do the show again. A couple of things before I send you on your way. An interesting fact about Natalie's father. We talk about Norman Burton being the actor who plays him. Well, when he was on Wonder Woman, there is an episode where he has a daughter who is in danger that Wonder Woman has to rescue. That daughter was played by Eve Plum. That's Jan Brady to most people who know that name. And full circle moment, Eve Plum is going to be coming up next season on The Facts of Life as Blair's stepsister. So, Blair's stepsister, Natalie's dad, everything is an Oprah full circle moment in the world of 1980s television. I did also mention in this episode something about Joe being Italian, of course, duh. Paul Nacek is a Polish name, not Italian, but, from the Bronx, same difference, really. It's about the same. Just like when people think that I'm Italian, people used to think my dad was Italian. It's like, well, it's actually Portuguese, but I really make no case for there being that much of a difference. Now, I talked about that dream of a Friends Facts of Life crossover, about it being, Natalie Green, Rachel Green, and the two dads being brothers. I said on the show that it wasn't really viable because one of them spelled their last name Green with an E at the end. I did verify that, and I am wrong. Both Natalie Green and Rachel Green spell it green with no E like the color. So that crossover totally could have happened. And writers, I'm really upset that you didn't think to do that, because it would have made me really, really happy. And now I'm a little bit mad at you. Yeah. And the last thing I want to bring up is, remember last week, Matthew talked about the fact that he commented on one of Lisa Welch's Instagram posts, and she liked his comment. So Matthew talks about his close personal friend, Lisa Welchel. Well, I had said I had not yet revealed myself and the podcast to the women who are on this show. Well, since recording that episode with Matthew, I did do it. I went on Instagram. I posted a picture of the season 2 cast, and I put up a little thing about it being on August 24th, the 40th anniversary of the premiere of the show. It's hard to believe. It's crazy. But it was August 24th, 1979, and now here we are, 40 years later. And I thanked them for the laughs, the lessons, and the inspiration. And I took a deep breath and I tagged all 4 of the actresses in that photograph. And to my great surprise and delight, Nancy McKeon liked the post. I'm like, oh my God, she knows about me. And she's my best friend now. And Matthew's best friend is Blair, and we could totally hang out together and go to the mall and get something over at Chess King. And anyway, all the fantasies, all the dreams of being best friends with these girls is flooding back to me, to my adolescent crazy brain. Anyhow, but just to make it clear, from now on, if Matthew can refer to Lisa Welchel as his close personal friend Lisa Welchel, I am now pleased to say always my close personal friend Nancy McKeon. So that's all for this week, guys. Next week, I'm going to be watching Season 3, Episode 18. It's called Runaway, and I'm going to have another special guest. So thank you so much for listening to this show, as always. And remember, the facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the let's. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.